So Craig Rennie from the CTU was asked, of course, the question, did the numbers stand up to do with the tax cuts?
Do the numbers stack up to you?
Well, a bit like the Auckland weather this morning, it's a bit murky, and there's certainly more questions to ask than answers are provided by the document produced yesterday. As you say, $3 billion from foreign buyers. It's not clear where that money is actually coming from. The average cost would be $350,000 per unit of housing. If you've got $350,000 to pay a tax, you can afford to pay an accountant to not pay the tax. And so it's not clear that money's actually turning up. It's not clear that foreign casinos are going to turn up and provide $700 million of new money. And in fact, it's already government policy and it's already legislated. So there are many questions to ask about that and that side. And that's before we get into the value of the tax cuts for many New Zealanders. 56% of taxpayers in New Zealand would get less than $2.15 a week. So there's plenty of questions still to ask in the paper.
When we look at how these tax policy announcements or policy announcements roll out ahead of elections, quite often we do see immediately there's a giant hole, or immediately someone can say there's $1 billion missing there, or you're never going to be able to pay for it. On large, though, National seems to have escaped that criticism so far. You've made some points right now that are numbers that are new to us this morning that you've had some time to assess. But is there a way that they can make this work? They might be optimistic, but can they make it work?
Yeah, they can make it work because if the safety valve inside the system are further cuts to public services. So if they can't correct the revenue from foreign buyers, from foreign casinos, if they don't get the revenue from other sources, they've got to cut further and further and further.
Yeah,
to give you an example of what that means,
further cutting.
If they're out by $2 billion, bearing in mind they need $3 billion from their foreign buyers, that means the size of the cuts to public services needs to double.
Now, they're saying they wouldn't do frontline, so that wouldn't affect health, education, the likes of that.
We don't know. All we have right now is a list of departments that have said that they're going to cut. And I think we actually need to get into the detail of what that means, because there'll be plenty of things people consider to be frontline in those services, but which are still proposed to be cut.
So, in other words, what is frontline? And as I said, Shui, last night, the front line gets serviced by the back room. And if the back room now has nobody in it, how do the messages get to the front line? There's a process. I'm not saying, by the way, that there's no cuts that could be made. I'm not saying that it's running slickly and smoothly now. I'm just saying, without the details, we've said this all the way through, but like Craig's just said, we don't know whether it's going to make it net positive or net negative. I mean, being silly, if the back room was telephonists, taking messages, and that went from 10 to 1 through to the cuts, then those messages are going to take 10 times longer to get out. What does it mean? Who's going? What are the roles they have? We don't know. And we don't know how that impacts the front line.
Let's roll that out to the business world. For anybody that works in a business, you've got to cut costs. So the first person on the chopping block, we don't want to take people off the floor. We don't want to take the makers and the salespeople out of the picture, right? So we'll sack the office admin and the storeroom manager. What happens?
So no more messages getting through. No,
nothing good.
No,
so,
absolutely.
Yeah.
So this conversation continued on breakfast, and when Nicola Willis came on, she was not a happy chappy. I do find this a bit pearl clutchy, because if you're going to complain about Craig Rennie being on, obviously we know where the CTU and Craig Rennie sit, but to make a statement and a stand about complaining why he's on, I hope you're doing the same to all the taxpayers union guys when they come on, to when David Farrar, you better be doing the same, because if you're not, then you're just a pearl clutching whinger. Let's have a bit of a listen.
All right, listening in on that interview with National's finance spokesperson, Nicola Willis, who joins us now. Good morning, Ms. Willis. Have you done the numbers right?
Can I just say as well, I'm pretty sure this is green screen. It looks terrible. Standing in front of the podium, I'm pretty sure. You wait till you have a look at it. It's not, it looks like it's, looks like it's a Zoom background. I mean, fair enough if you want, but it does feel a little bit Trumpian, my big flag's behind me and my podium, but it's not actually real. But I could be wrong. It might be, but it does look very green screeny to me.
Right, on your foreign buyer tax.
Yes, we have, Anna. Can I just point out that Craig Rennie, who you've just had on, his immediate prior job to the one he has now was advising Grant Robertson, and the CTU who he works for yesterday put up attack ads about the National Party. I think it's important your viewers understand which corner he's coming from.
As long as when Jordan Williams comes on, or anyone of that ilk, they also realise that these attack ads have been put out against Labor. You know what I'm saying? It just feels a bit pearl clutchy. Like it feels a bit desperate to have to go. Oh, not a nice man. Doesn't like our stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Look, if this is the standard, like what about that dude that they roll out every time they want to talk about dairies?
Yeah,
the guy that's literally a door knocker for National.
Yeah, true.
You know, a potential candidate. Does that get pointed out? I'd love it that this is the standard. Sure, like I don't have a problem with putting context on people's spokespeople.
But Chewy, it doesn't need to be a standard when we do it. Only when they do it. You don't know the rules.
Stupid Chewy.